Hey, Clint Coons here, and in this video, we're going to discuss when not to use a limited liability company for real estate investors. Let's get started. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what? No LLCs? I've been told I need to use limited liability companies. In fact, in several of my videos, of course, and a lot of them, I talk about using that particular structure to protect your investments. However, there are certain situations where the LLC is not your friend, but your foe in trying to put a deal together using that particular entity. And so, what I want to break down for you are a few of the situations that an LLC should not be considered, that it's actually going to result in creating more problems for your overall investing than you're hoping to solve by using it. So, what is the first one that comes to mind? Well, if you want to close on residential real estate and you're using a conventional loan. All right, in those situations, you're not going to be able to close in the name of a limited liability company. So there's no point in trying to set up that entire structure so you can go to closing and closing the LLC because your lender is only going to deny it. Now, that doesn't mean you can't transfer the property into the LLC after closing, but we wouldn't use it for closing. Whereas if I was buying for cash, I could definitely close inside of an LLC because a lender's not involved. Or if I'm using a DSCR loan, a debt service coverage ratio loan, then I can close in an LLC or possibly with a portfolio lender. They may allow you to do that. So that's the first one. Now, the second one is for those of you that buy property subject to. Hey, listen up. Do not use an LLC when you're buying property subject to. And this is really important now in this environment. And the reason I say that is because many of the properties that you're looking at when you're buying property subject to, those homeowners many times have a mortgage that they took out pre-2022, 21. And so it's a lower interest rate. And so when I'm doing my numbers to see how this is going to work out and I'm going to buy that property, I cannot risk a lender finding out that that property has been sold or transferred from the distressed seller to a business entity. Because if that is discovered, and it most likely will when you change your insurance to name the LLC as the insured party, then the lender's going to come knocking. And if they discover that, as I've seen happen with subject to investors who have reached out to me after watching my videos and said, hey, this actually occurred. The lender came after and called the note due, and I lost money on this deal. Well, the issue is do not use an LLC in those scenarios. Instead, you should look at using a land trust. All right, the land trust provides the necessary type of protection you need from lender scrutiny, whereas the LLC does not. So we want to avoid using the LLC in those scenarios. Now, the third scenario we run into, which is not uncommon, most people make this mistake in that they say, hey, I have told that an LLC provides asset protection, so I want to move my property from my name into that limited liability company for that protection that I've learned about. Now, the issue arises when you own an investment in a particular state that taxes a transfer directly into the LLC. So when I say you shouldn't use an LLC, I need to put an asterisk around that. You shouldn't use an LLC to hold property directly. And so, for example, say you owned a rental in Florida. Now, if you were to transfer that property in Florida into an LLC and that property has a mortgage on it, then you will pay what Florida refers to or calls a dock stamp, which is a tax on the transfer. Not only will you get taxed on that particular transfer, but you'll also have a reassessment of your tax basis in Florida, because in Florida, it's capped at a certain amount, but when you put it into an LLC, you lose that. Now, I singled out Florida, but it's not the only state that does this. Working with someone who understands, that works nationwide, is critical if you are investing outside of your home jurisdiction to understand how these rules operate. For example, Pennsylvania is another perfect example of that. I was just reached out to last week from a company that wanted me to come speak at an event to talk about asset protection for people who live in Pennsylvania. And I said, I'm going to have to decline that because there is no benefit for me. I cannot bring value to those people because the strategies that I talk about, moving properties into LLCs or land trusts and that flavor, do not work there without resulting in a significant transfer tax. And so when you're considering transferring your real estate, the LLC may not be your first choice. Maybe you have to again go to a land trust first and then place the land trust into the limited liability company. Now, another situation that comes up every so often is when I meet with someone who has made an investment into learn how to get started in real estate investing. When I say an investment, I mean a sizable investment. Let's say you've invested $20,000 or $30,000 to learn about how to go out and engage in certain types of real estate strategies. So here's the deal. Unless you're already in the business of real estate investing, you have real estate currently in your portfolio, then the ability to take that as a deduction is going to be limited to your future gains from your real estate investing. And if you don't have any gains because you determine this isn't for me after you've gone through all the trainings and you want to walk away, well, you're going to be limited on how much you can write off of that investment. So what I like to do is what we did for a client in a few years back, where they'd made a sizable investment. $50,000 is the investment they'd made to start learning about how to invest. Well, at the end of their investing journey or their educational journey, they determined that real estate investing really wasn't for them. And so they wanted to write off that investment. Now, in that particular scenario, we did not use an LLC for their business. We set up a traditional C corporation. And the reason why we set this up is because we understood that should this happen in the future, we want to have a solution in place for that client that should they choose to go a different direction, they could get a full deduction for it. And that's what you can actually obtain with a traditional corporation, not an LLC, but just set up a traditional corp. And then you can have small business stock loss, which means you can write off up to $50,000 per shareholder on your 1040 as a current deduction in the year in which you close your business down. So our client that we're working with is really happy to find that out because their local CPA didn't give them that option. They said, you can't do that. CPA didn't understand. He was probably thinking about LLCs because if that was an LLC, the CPA would have been 100% correct. So when choosing the proper business form for your real estate investing, the LLC is a workhorse, but it should not be utilized in every scenario for your investing. You got to make sure you're using the right entity to help you accomplish your goals. Take care.